Welcome to the University of Maine System Travel and Expense webinar training. I'd like to welcome any participants that we have watching this video. What we're going to discuss today is a basic overview of the new Concur Expense Travel and Expense System. I want to make everybody aware that there are many other training opportunities that are out there, including more online tutorials and pieces of training information. So this is not designed to make you an expert in using the system, but it is to give you an overview of what the system can and cannot do, as well as provide you with a little bit of background as to what we are doing with the new system. With that being said, we will jump right into the curriculum and go through the slide deck and then do some online demos of the system, discussing the abilities of the system so that you understand what's going on. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what this system is, the travel and expense system. So we'll give you a little bit of a background. We'll talk about the meal rate changes. We'll talk about the Concur system components and a little bit of change in vocabulary for us from the old paper world. We'll talk about what we're expecting from an approval perspective. And then we'll go through a live demo where we talk about our individual profiles, some expense reporting, road warrior in-state travel type stuff, and then a full-blown out-of-state booking. So how did we get here? Why did we do what we did with the system? So back in March of 2013, a group of folks in procurement, myself, Mike Noblet, Rudy Gabrielson, who is our new Chief Procurement Officer, Kevin Carr, and several other folks were involved in a review process, administrative review of procurement, to determine some areas that we needed to improve on. And one of those areas was our travel and expense system. So in doing that, we decided the paper process was inefficient and therefore should be replaced with something. We decided to do a request for proposal, an RFP, to see if we could get a better system and a better model for us to use for our travel and expense system. And in doing so, we received 3 responses back from travel agencies or travel management companies. It's a little bit of a travel agency on steroids, and we'll go through that a little bit here in a minute. Those 3 agencies that applied were Hurley Travel from Portland, Doobie Travel from Augusta, and Shorts Travel from Iowa. And then we also, as included in that RFP, we're asking for software packages as well. And we received 2 software package proposals, one from Concur Travel and Expense and the other one from Chrome, and that's an actual software package, not the browser. An evaluation committee made up of faculty, staff, researchers, athletics, etc., went ahead and chose Shorts Travel and Concur as the mix for the new system. It was heavily evaluated by many different constituent groups so that we could make sure that anybody who's traveling, doing any kind of personal expenses, etc., would be represented within the new system. So, Shorts Travel. And they are a travel management company. They were our chosen partner as part of our RFP. A travel management company is like a standard travel agency, except they do a lot more for us, hence the statement they're a travel agency on steroids. They handle our booking, they handle pricing, they handle contracts, etc. It's just like any other travel agency would. However, the big things that they bring to the table for us is they actually are able to negotiate better rates for us as it applies to airlines, hotels, car rentals, etc. They've helped us negotiate a new contract with United Airlines, giving us 3% off of all of our flights. And that is something that's not available on the website even through united.com. So it is a unique contract to the University of Maine system. They've helped us renegotiate our enterprise contract to get us a little bit better rates, some longer term rental concessions, etc. And they're actively working on our hotel rates. They're able to tap into consortia contracts that we don't have access to get us better rates, as well as helping us load all the UMS hotel rates into the system as well. Shorts Travel is a very experienced group, as you can see from the slide, providing travel to over 300 corporations, governments, colleges, universities. I think the major feather in their cap as it applies to university travel really applies to the NCAA. So for March Madness, Shorts Travel handles all travel for all teams, officials, etc., as it applies to March Madness. So you can imagine their ability to move quickly to support anything that we could come up with from an academic standpoint, as well as athletics. So very strong background, and their ability to support us is quite outstanding. The other thing that they bring to the table is a concept of duty of care. So they are able to help keep track of our employees as they travel, so that if something happens out there in the world, whether it's a volcano in Argentina, a plane crash in Germany, whatever it happens to be, they're able to keep track of our folks, tell us whether or not there's anybody on those flights. If there's weather incidents, etc., they're actually able to get ahead of those instances and reach out to some of our travelers if they need to change their itineraries, etc. So they bring to the table quite a bit of support from a duty of care perspective, so that we know as university supervisors where our people are and whether or not they're going to be in any kind of danger due to the things happening out in the real world. Now, obviously, Shorts doesn't do this for free. There are fees associated with this. There are fees associated with online booking, such as Expedia or Orbitz, and there's also obviously booking fees when you talk to a local travel agency, such as Hurley Travel or Bangor Travel, depending on where you happen to be in the state. Those fees are very, very competitive. The fees for our online booking are $5 per booking. So if you have a car, a hotel, an airline, all of that is still only $5 total. If you were to look at Expedia or Orbitz, they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9. Industry standard for online booking rates are anywhere between $5 and $25. We are obviously on the very low end to incentivize our employees to use the online system as opposed to going directly to an agent. However, there are definitely situations where an agent is more appropriate, and in those cases you would be able to use the travel agency, Shorts Travel. Their fee is $25 for that. On average, we typically see industry-wide anywhere between $15 and $50 for agent fees. Being at $25, we're on the low end and very competitive with the other agencies that the university system has been using over the last couple of years. So while we've incentivized the online system, the agency call-in is very well priced as well. There are contact information and contact numbers within the Concur system for you to reach out to Shorts Travel. They're available East Coast time, 8 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. If there are off-hour calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they have a emergency line that is available to our staff. This is not something that we would typically want to use for our booking, etc., because there is a fee associated with that. But if there is truly an emergency, your flight's been canceled, etc., it's off hours, it is a pass-through. Shorts Travel does not make any money on it, but it is a $21 fee for the help of that 24-hour emergency service. But it is there. It is the same 877 number that you would call to talk to a Shorts agent. Just rolls over to the emergency group that they've outsourced to. All right, why are we changing? Why are we doing what we're doing here? As we went through the administrative review, we determined that the paper expense report process, whether it's travel related or personal expenses, was very cumbersome and very difficult to track, with a lot of hoops to jump through for folks to get reimbursed. So what we've done is we're providing, with a new online tool, some user-friendly travel and expense reimbursement functionality. Our beta group, which was our phase 1 group, who tested this in the previous couple of months, March and April, were very happy with the user interface. There were obviously problems with the system because it was beta test, but from a user interface and usability standpoint, all of the signs pointed to it being very user-friendly, and the beta group was very happy using the system. The ability to submit online should save time, should also get to quicker reimbursements, where the workflow within the system sends the expense reports or requests to the proper folks for approval in a timely fashion. We can see it, we can keep track of it, etc. And so we've got a much quicker turnaround on those. The other side of that is we have a new travel card replacing our P card. All travelers will be getting a travel card, and that really limits the amount of actual personal reimbursement that's needed for any travel-related expenses. That travel card is a corporate liability card, and therefore paid by the University of Maine system, and our end users do not have to carry any kind of liability on their personal account. Those card transactions automatically populate into the expense reports and are available to basically put a check mark in and turn around for an expense report very, very quickly. One of the really nice features of the system is we're moving away from the giant piles of paper as it applies to receipts. Those receipts now can be loaded into the system electronically. They can be scanned in from the copier. They can be emailed to a special account within the system. They can be taken a picture of with your smartphone or your tablet and uploaded through the Concur mobile app. All of these are available to any user, and as you travel, you can take pictures of your receipts on the go, not having to worry about getting home with a giant pile of paper and trying to figure out what goes with what. All of that stuff can be done on the fly or when you get home, but no need for the paper receipts anymore. The system also has a very robust notification system, so anytime any changes on a travel request or authorization, a travel expense report, etc. happen, whether it's an approval, a rejection, a question, all of those things generate emails to the traveler so that they know exactly what's going on at all times. That leads us into that visibility functionality of the system. Because it's online, you no longer have that question of where is my expense report. I turned it in 2 weeks ago. It had to go through multiple approvers. I don't even know what desk it's on at the moment, where it is, when I'm going to be paid back. With the new system, it gives you the ability to see all of that from end to end, see who's touched it, who is approving it currently, and also when you could expect to be reimbursed. The last piece of the visibility goes back to the duty of care that we talked about with the travel management company, and that would be that the supervisors, the direct supervisors of our employees, know where they are at all times. We're going to talk about some stuff on the approval side, but one of the areas of concern for the University of Maine system was that because of the split funding nature and grants and things of that nature, there were supervisors who didn't know where their folks were because they weren't necessarily tied into the grant funds that were being spent for that trip. So this system helps us with that particular issue. So what does Concur do? There's been a bit of a misconception that Concur is only for travel. It is for employee reimbursement. So if an employee spends out-of-pocket personal funds for anything business related, then this system is how we are going to reimburse them. I want to make it really clear, though, that this system is now available to be able to reimburse employees, students, and guests. So we send a student out to the field. They use their own money to purchase a ferry ticket to Monhegan or something else they needed for the field. We can reimburse them for that, for their mileage, etc. When you bring in a candidate for a job as a guest, we are able to reimburse them for their travel. We can arrange for them up front, or we can reimburse them. Both of those functionalities are available within the system. And then from an employee standpoint, obviously, booking travel, requesting travel, getting reimbursed for travel and or personal expenses are all available within the system. The system includes an online booking tool, so if anybody out there has ever seen Expedia or Orbitz, then they'll know what this booking tool looks like. It is very important to note that the system is tied into the same back-end computer system that all travel agencies, Orbitz, Expedia, all are tied into. There are two of those out there, Apollo and Sabre. So you're going to be able to see all of the pricing structures that you would see at any one of these other locations, obviously with a lower booking rate to save us time and money. The added bonus that we have with Concur is we are the only system that has the ability to have the Southwest Airlines gotta get away fares, the lowest fares from Southwest Airlines that are typically only available through southwest.com. Those are available through the Concur booking tool. Anybody who's used any one of those other online tools will understand the system. It's fairly familiar. There are a couple different bells and whistles as it applies to filters to narrow down your search parameters, but very easily recognizable. We've talked about the travel card. That travel card is tied into all the bookings in the system. It's stored within the traveler's profile, so there's no need to have the arrangers know your card numbers or to share that information with anybody. It's stored in the profile, so either the traveler booking or an arranger or delegate booking on behalf of a traveler can be tied into that travel card, and it helps easily create the expense report as opposed to creating POs or doing a hand-entered expense report. We have online travel expense processing. So with the travel card tie-in, that helps us. So as we're traveling, as we're doing, whether it's mileage, whether it's an actual flight and things of that nature, we need meals, etc. All of that can be expensed on our new travel card. Those travel card transactions do end up in the expense reports. Just basically need to be coded as the proper expense type and possibly allocated to multiple chart field combinations, but in general there's hardly any data entry associated with those travel expenses. And then we have the online travel approval. So in current state, the APL requires that we have a travel authorization before we travel. That is now going to be done online. It gives us the ability to do one-off travel requests as well as blanket travel requests for a fixed period of time for in-state travel for our road warrior type folks. But the online travel authorization or travel request replaces our old paper travel authorization and makes the world quite a bit simpler for our travelers to get approval to go. So what does the Concur system do? This is a very busy slide that shows the life cycle of a travel event where we create a travel request, we book the trip, we can use our mobile app for travel, etc. We've got our university travel card, our electronic receipts. But the important thing is that all of these arrows, the travel estimate, the travel itinerary, and then the travel itinerary from our mobile app as well as our travel card and receipts all feed directly into our expense report, making that process exceptionally easy. Obviously, we can see that we can do an online booking or an agent booking, depending on what works best for us. But this is just kind of a representation of what the system can do for us. Very simplified version, but it does show some of the power and automation that we can use. So this is the area that requires probably the most discussion besides the demonstrations, and that's our new meal rate. In the previous APL, we had a choice of two different meal rates. We had the concept of a per diem that had a max of 46 or actuals with a max of 48. The actuals required receipts, the per diem did not, and there was some variability in the per diem rate depending on where you were traveling to. Our new system allows for actuals up to $46. It does not require receipts. So what does that mean? If I'm traveling and I have breakfast in the morning, it doesn't matter what time I'm leaving, what time I'm getting home, etc. If it's an approved travel day for me, I have the ability to have a meal expense. That meal expense, I could spend $46 for breakfast if I wanted to. Then I wouldn't have any more meal the rest of the day. There is no balancing percentages per meal, etc. It is just it is actuals up to 46 with no receipts. If I only spend $22 during the day on meals, then if I needed reimbursement because it was not on my travel card, then I would only get $22 as opposed to in the per diem world where I would get the entire amount. So it is actuals. Again, it does not require receipts. So if I go out to dinner, it's $22 for myself to eat dinner. That would just load in on my travel card. I would not need to load a receipt. The system is not going to require it. Departments, on the other hand, may require it. The system is not going to kick it out because it doesn't have a receipt, but certainly an approver within a department may send it back and ask for a receipt if needed. The $46 a day applies to all locations within the continental United States. There will no longer be higher rate locations within the United States. The reason behind that was we started doing an analysis of our higher rate procedures as we started to put the system in. And we found that the higher rate locations required CFO or higher approval to request the higher rate in, say, Washington, D.C. or Los Angeles, etc. The only folks that were getting approval for those were grant-related travel, so E&G typically got turned down. The problem with this was as we started going into an audit phase of how we were spending our funds for meals, it appeared and would have appeared to the federal government that we were charging more money to them, allowing only the higher rate to be charged against grant funding rather than E&G funding. So to prevent audit findings within the grant world, we chose to put a single methodology into the system so that there was no gray area and everybody was adhering to the same rules, which is what the U.S. government would like as it applies to our grant funding. Obviously, there are other grant sources. They typically don't want to be charged more as well, so this is protecting us from audit findings. For anywhere outside the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and any foreign location, we're going to be using the GSA OCONUS rates. Those rates are loaded into the system. They are hardwired in and are updated on a fairly regular basis. So as you travel, you do not need to worry about what the rate is in the foreign country that I happen to be in. I mentioned no receipts required. The travel card automatically feeds into the expense report, so we want to encourage the use of the travel card, especially as it applies to meals. I will tell you that as you get closer to the $46 per day, the card will not be declined. It will still work as it goes through. When the system does the expenses for that, it recognizes that you've gone over the $46, and that is then marked as a personal expense that either offsets anything that we owe to the employee or requires the employee to pay us back if they've gone over that $46. The other key here is this is only for individual meals. If I am a department chair and I am taking a candidate out to dinner as part of the interview process, that is considered a group meal. The $46 does not apply. Development officers, admin, admissions folks, etc., who are taking out and entertaining people, those are not considered individual meals as well. They are group meals. They do require receipts. There is no limit on the dollar amount, and we do require that the attendees in those dinner meetings be identified. That is an IRS requirement, not ours. So I said there's no per diem rate, only actual, so you're not going to get the $46, you're going to get what you actually spend. And I mentioned no high cost location exceptions. So the system components, the things that are part of the Concur system, we'll go over a little bit more in depth in the demonstration. Just want to kind of level set, give everybody some vocabulary words. So we've got the employee profile. That's where it stores your important information, your birth date, your emergency contacts, your TSA information, and your travel card information. It also gives the profile gives you the ability to choose delegates. If you're a person who has an administrative person help you with your booking of your flights or your request or expense reports, all of those people can be tied in as delegates into your profile so that you are able to have them help you with those things. Inside the profile, you can also store things like your loyalty programs, so Delta Sky Miles or your Hertz One Gold Club card or whatever you like. The system will store up to 5 of those. The travel request is a replacement for the travel authorization and cash advance forms that we used to fill out by hand. The system, we do require that prior approval be gathered before travel, whether it be on a blanket in-state travel recommendation like we were doing with emails or written pieces of paper, or it's a unique travel request for each individual trip. Those are done online in the system. They have the cash advance functionality tied directly to it. Obviously, with a travel card, there should be fewer cash advances that are needed. There are groups, however, some of the research folks who are traveling to odd places where there is no credit card machines or athletic departments who are giving out meal monies. The cash advance still is a very powerful tool. The system, as you are doing your travel request, allows you to pre-populate those cash advances into the future so that they will be sitting there queued up and waiting to be released 2 weeks before the travel. So athletic departments could theoretically do their travel requests for each one of their trip dates 6 months in advance, have them sitting there waiting, and then the cash advances will release themselves 2 weeks before travel so the coaches have plenty of time to get that cash and be able to get ready for their trip. Everybody needs one. It is required. Travel request approval is required. It was done uniquely at each one of the 7, actually 8 business units, both the system office and all of the campuses. Some people were entering them into PeopleSoft, some people were not. Those are now required in the system. They have the same type of workflow that the expense reports do, are very visible and easily trackable, and also give us an audit trail on the approval of employees traveling. We have the online booking tool, which I've mentioned before, which is similar to Expedia or Orbitz or Kayak. Pre-approval is required to use the online booking tool. When you do a travel request, it'll give you a travel request ID number. That ID number is plugged into the booking. And you are able then to complete the booking. Anybody who is a traveler should be able to book for themselves. You also have the concept of the delegate that we talked about in the employee profile, where the delegate could book for them. And then the third option is if we're booking for guests, we do have the ability to order, book, and pay for travel for outside entities within the system, so there is no need for them to be reimbursed. Those, however, are specifically tied to non-contract related type things where we're paying for travel rather than honorarium, for example. The final piece of the system is the most powerful piece, and it's the biggest piece of the system, and that's the expense reporting. This replaces the TEV, or travel expense voucher. It is used for non-travel expense reimbursement, so I had to purchase something out of pocket with personal funds. that is how I will be reimbursed in the system. There is no need for a travel request, obviously, for a non-travel expense reimbursement. There's a direct tie for the UMS travel card. I've mentioned that multiple times. We do encourage the use of the travel card, and we are not going to allow personal cards as a method of payment within the system more than one time if a traveler does not happen to have a travel card at the time. There is a mobile application. It is called Concur Mobile. It runs on iOS, Android, and BlackBerry platforms. It runs on tablets, etc. It is a very powerful tool. You can book, you can approve, you can scan in just by taking a picture of your receipt, load that into the system. We talk about electronic receipts in general. There are abilities for hotels that do e-receipts, hotels or car rental folks do e-receipts. That's an electronic receipt that they can load directly into your profile. You also have the scanned copies as well, so no more paper. And then we've got the end-to-end process visibility. I know where my expense report is at all times. I know who's approved it, who touched it. There's no more question as to whose desk it's on and when I can expect to see it. So let's talk about approvals real quick. The new system gives us some more capability that the paper concept didn't allow for. And really, I think that there was some pressure out there from an approval perspective to nitpick the expense reports to death, chasing people down for 5 cents, etc. We're putting the power back in the department's hands, the people who really do control their own budgets, to be responsible, to make proper decisions about the use of university funds, etc. And so the approvers, both a manager approver and the cost object approver, really are the gatekeepers for their own department as to whether or not that the traveler's expense or travel expense are appropriate in nature. We certainly will be auditing in the background, although not quite as extensively as we have in the past. We will be using some electronic auditing processes so that we capture certain things on a regular basis so that we can keep an eye on and help the approvers that are out there. But really, the key here is that we're putting the power back in the department's hands for them to make proper decisions as their approvers. So in the system, we've got a minimum of 2 approvers that are required for every transaction, whether it be a travel request or an expense report. Those 2 approvers are a manager or supervisor approver and a cost object approver. So let's go through the manager one first, and that's your HR supervisor. And I have been joking with some folks in the field who are grant-related travelers. They're professors who travel on grants. They talk about the fact that the grant managers, the people who control the money for those trips, know exactly where they are, what they're doing, and what's going on with the trip. But not typically the department chair or their manager knows what's going on with them because they don't have anything to do with the funding source. And so we've had this practice of not informing our supervisors. The new system does require that those supervisors are informed and are required to approve their employees' travel. And this comes back to that concept of duty of care. Where are my people, and is it appropriate for them from a safety perspective to be going wherever it is that they're going, even if they're traveling on grant funds? So we do require that first level of supervisor approver. There are some interesting concepts within the university with split appointments, etc. We've been able to work through a vast majority of those. So if there's any issues with that, as we get to the end of this presentation, there'll be some contact information. Reach out. We'll work through a model that works if we have a split manager approval requirement. As I said, there are a lot of people who have never needed this before. It has always been required, but kind of overlooked. Now the system with an automated audit trail is going to require that this type of thing happen all the time. The second level of approvers is what the Concur calls the cost object approver. For lack of a better term, this is the chart field owner. So the chart field string, where the funding source is coming from, if it's a split funding source, if it's a single source but it's a grant outside of my department, etc., there is a unique approver that's associated with the chart field string, and the travel request or travel or expense voucher, expense report, travel to the person that owns that chart field account. So if I'm splitting between two funding sources, there could actually be multiple approvers between those two funding sources. It will route to both or all of those. The other unique thing about the approval system gives us the ability to add in approvals as we need them. So if I am a manager approver and somebody puts an expense report in that I'm not quite sure about, I have the ability at the click of a button to add an extra workflow layer to send it on to my boss to have him review that. I could, if it's a cost object, I could send it on to another financial person to take a look to make sure that we do have the budget, that the chart field string is correct, etc. That is a very powerful tool that we plan to have used for PIs and PDs for sign off on travel related expenses that they control the chart field and need to sign off on those expenses for the granting agency. It also gives us the ability to have multiple approvers against a single chart field string and route to wherever we need to, where the system is not quite sophisticated enough to do an if then else statement and route based on that. So it is a powerful tool, and it does give us the ability to send approvals to anybody we need to, and gives us a manager and a chart field approver for every transaction. Now, the one thing that we've talked about throughout is the ability to have a delegate. Now, a delegate can be anything, and we'll show this during the demonstration, can be anything from just entering stuff to all the way up to approving in the manager or cost object approver's stead. I think it's very important to understand that this is giving our full signature authority to somebody if I make them a delegate to approve. For lack of a better description, this is giving them power of attorney to sign in my name. So we need to be very careful and very thoughtful about how we do the delegate concept and whether or not we really want to give someone that type of sign-in authority. We don't want to give them delegate authority just because we don't want to get in the system, because both individuals, both the delegate and the granting person, manager, cost object approver, is going to be tied to that transaction and is going to be required to answer for it from an audit perspective. So it is very important. The other thing the system allows for is temporary delegates. So I'm going on vacation, I'm going out on leave. I can turn it on for a fixed set of dates where I give somebody a delegate authority, and then it automatically turns off at the end of that time frame. So that is available for all of our end users out there. So we're going to jump into the system demonstration, and I'm going to show you the profile. I'm going to do a non-travel expense reimbursement. So I spent something out of pocket that I needed for work, and I needed to be reimbursed for it. I wasn't traveling. We'll do an in-state travel request, and we'll do it as a blanket, but we'll explain the difference between a normal one and a blanket. We'll do an in-state expense report, and then we'll do a full-blown out-of-state booking, and if we have time, we will walk through doing an expense report based on that. So we are going to end the slide demonstration, and we are going to move to the Concur system. So the Concur system is available now to all of our end users. I am already logged in. I'm logged in as William Never. We do have the ability, and I will switch over to this real quick. The preferred method to log into the system is the My Campus portal. So it is mycampus.maine.edu. And as we can see here, I'm in the campus. I have the icons over here on the left. I can click Concur. No need to know my username and password. It will go in automatically. Because we are using a test employee, I don't have the ability to go through that single sign-on, so I logged in through the URL, which is concurrsolutions.com. If you prefer to log in that methodology, you will use your maine.edu email address as your username, and then you will say that you forgot your password, and it will send you a new password, a temporary password for you to set one up. It is imperative that you use something, it is policy that you use something other than your PeopleSoft login and password. So this is the Concur system. This is us, we're looking into the system now, and we're going to look, this is the home landing page, and we're going to look at our profile. So up at the top, we're going to click on Profile. We're going to click on Profile Settings. I am William Stephen Never today for my test, for my demonstration. And there are a whole bunch of things that are here on the left-hand side, and we'll make this a little bit bigger for us to look at from a profile perspective. The place that we want to start is our personal information. And some of this is already pre-filled for us because it comes in from our HR side. So we've got our name. You want to make sure that your name, your middle name, and your last name are what are on your official identification for TSA purposes. Your company information, that should have pre-populated. Your work address, please fill that in. It is helpful. Your home address as well. The one piece that is required is your contact information. It shows the work phone and the home phone as both required. I will tell you that what we want is one or the other. You certainly, even though it says required on both, you're only required to do one of them. I would recommend, however, that if you have a mobile phone, that you do put your mobile phone number into the system. It gives Shorts Travel as well as Concur the ability to contact you on the road as you travel, to send you text messages, etc., so that we have that there. It is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. You can have multiple email addresses in here. We've had some folks at the campuses that have multiple email addresses outside the @maine.edu. They can put those in. You can see here that I have a personal email address in here. It is important that you verify it, so you will send a verification to yourself. Once you set that up, it'll give you this code to fill in, and you can click OK, and it'll switch over to verified. This is very important. This is what is used to identify where your receipts are loaded into the system. It also is how you get those notifications of the different things going on, whether it's a booking, whether it's approvals of your expense reports or your requests, etc. Those all come, and they can be sent to any and all of your email addresses. Emergency contact, this is fairly important. As you travel, we do want you to have somebody who's out there that Shorts or the university can contact as part of that duty of care concept. You have travel preferences, where you can fill in, the groups that you belong to, AAA, government, AARP, etc. You can fill in airline preferences. So I prefer an aisle with a regular meal, and my preferred airport is Bangor. So you can fill those types of things in, and those are stored from room types in your hotel rooms to car preferences, etc. You have the ability to enter frequent traveler programs. So if your Delta Sky Miles, your hotel, your Starwood Preferred Guest, etc., your Hertz Gold card, or if you're an enterprise one, all of those can be stored in there. You can add up to 5 different programs, and those can be used so that you're gaining points on those even with university travel. The TSA section is important. We've got your birth date. Don't worry that it's all in X's. That's the way it's supposed to be. When you first enter it, you'll be able to see it. As soon as you save it, it encrypts it. Not even the administrators are going to be able to see what this happens to be. So as it stores as X's, that is perfectly fine. You need to choose your gender. If you have your TSA pre-check, please go ahead and put that in there and save those things. You can store your passport. This actually does give you notifications when your passport is starting to expire. It also makes it so that you can book your international travel much easier. You can have travel arrangers and assistants. If you'd like somebody to help you book your travel, you can add some folks in here. Mr. William Never has added Stephanie LeBlanc, and we actually have somebody from Shorts in here as an ability to help us. And then the other thing that we want is our travel card. And the travel card is this one, this William Never card. You can see that it's got the defaults for airplane, car, and hotel. That is saved in there, obviously, as all access except for the last 4 digits. If your delegate goes in, the delegate above goes into book for you, they can tie into this card. They'll never need to have it, never need to know any of the pertinent information. It's all stored in there. But that is incredibly important to give your delegates the ability to approve. You probably do want to filter through the rest of these sections on the left-hand side. We've gone through all the top information all the way down to here. You might want to look at some of this. The request information is fairly informative. It does tell you what your default chart fields are that are being fed over from PeopleSoft. If those are incorrect, please contact the travel administrator. We will have the contact information at the end of this presentation to ask to have those changed. We are working so that end users would have the ability, but for the time being, only the travel admin has that ability. We've talked about delegates quite a few times. We have the ability to have a request delegate, an expense delegate, or a travel delegate. All 3 of those are available. We can see that we can add in a request delegate who can prepare, can submit reports, requests, can receive emails. This can be a temporary one, can preview for the approver, or can, if they have approval level, they can approve, etc. So all of those things are available for you. You can give those powers to anyone that you feel needs them. If they are to approve in your stead, they do need to have an approval role associated with their profile. You can also look to see anybody who's made you a delegate. So delegate 4 tells you who you personally are a delegate for. You can reject it. I would tell you to be careful with that. If your supervisor wants you to be their delegate, I don't know that I would necessarily tell them that we don't want them to be, that I don't want to be it. So it is there. So if somebody accidentally makes you a delegate or somebody you shouldn't be a delegate for, you can turn that off. Again, that's available on the expense side, etc. The other piece that we need to worry about is the personal car. So we're going to go down to expense settings and we're going to click on personal car. And I want to make clear that this is not about personal car registration. This is a functionality within the system that was originally designed for companies who give different reimbursement rates depending on the type of vehicle that their employee is driving. So you might get a better reimbursement rate if you're driving a green vehicle versus a Ford F-150 that's not even remotely green. What we are using this system for is to help with the different mileage rates that are associated with our labor contracts. So if you're within one of the labor groups, there are unique requirements around your mileage rate, both from a distance perspective and a carpooling rate. So what we're doing is we're doing the car registration is we're going to be basically be creating our mileage reimbursement rates, not anything to do with our personal car. So if we're going to set a new one up, we're going to click new. In the vehicle ID, while the title is confusing, we're not looking for a vehicle ID. What we are looking for is something that we're going to remember. And so if I am a Colt employee, I can do my Colt mileage rate into the system. And then I'm going to choose under vehicle type. And actually with this test user, it's not syncing over properly. So we're going to do UMSA. So we're going to do UMSA mileage rate. There is a Colt version in the full-blown system. With this test user, it's not syncing over properly. So my vehicle type, I am going to choose UMSA mileage, and that is all I will do. And what happens in the background is that now is stored into the system with the proper rate, and as we change rates, it automatically updates itself. One of the things that this does allow us to do is for the normal rates in most of the contracts, there are mileage limits. So if you get to 8,000 miles, you get a bump up in your rate. If you get to 10,000 miles in a fiscal year, you get another bump up. Those are calculated in the background. And so as you enter these, you can have a starting mileage so that you have the ability for the system to calculate when you get to that 8,000 miles. No need to keep it in the spreadsheet anymore. It does reset itself at the beginning of the fiscal year, and it's out there all the time. So I have two vehicles that I've set up. My university 44-cent rate, because I'm an AFM. In this case, I'm going to be AFM. And then I've got a carpooling rate that's AFM or UMSA. That's a higher rate, and those are automatically in the system. So we are not looking for information on your personal car. This is just a functionality that we took over in the system to do something that it wasn't necessarily designed to do. That is all from a profile perspective. And so what we're going to do is we are going to we're going to go back to the home page, and we are going to start with a non-travel expense reimbursement. So I'm on my home page, and I expended some money. I wasn't traveling, but I needed to go out and expend some personal funds to get something because I needed it for the office. So I click on the expense tab here at the top, and I am going to click on create a new report. So the first thing that comes up is our report header. I'm going to give the expense report, a name that I can remember, and I am going to do personal paper purchase. Report date, creation date is today. My business purpose, when we do all the expense reports, there are very few business purposes in there. We did this on purpose so that our end users wouldn't be confused with multiple choices. While there are hundreds of these, as we looked back at our previous experience, we tried to make it a simple list, so choose whatever is closest. We probably will add a couple more to this, but for the most part, we want to keep this as simple a list as possible. So I'm going to come down here to non-travel expense reimbursement. Because the system has certain things that are required and certain things that are not, the required things are marked in red, the red bar at the end. In a lot of systems, we expect the asterisk that we see next to the word to be the required field. It's not. In Concur, those are custom fields that we had added. So when we're doing a non-travel expense report, the problem that we're going to run into is that we still are required to select a travel type. It is a required field. I couldn't make it unique to just a travel expense report. So if it's just a non-travel expense reimbursement, we're always going to choose in-state. And then I can start filling in my chart field combination. So I'm going to click the down arrow on business unit, and I have the ability to choose any business unit I want. The system will allow me to choose across all business units. It does have up here at the top the items that are highlighted or bolded, and those are the ones that I've used most recently. This does happen to be the chart field string that I would like to use, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And what it does is it fills in the rest of the chart field string. If I had a program or a project, I could add those. It is very important that when we click into this field, it gives us a search. I would recommend choosing either, and then you can start typing in a number, and then it will give you the available projects that are out, programs, projects, etc. Class codes are still available to us. All of these are exactly the same thing. You'll want to choose the radio button, change the radio button either, then you'll be able to fill in whatever you need. There is no request associated with this because this is a non-travel related expense reimbursement. So I'm going to click next. The system will always ask me, does this report include travel meals? And I will tell it no, because this is not travel related. This is just an expense report for something that I had to purchase out of pocket. So I'm going to hit no. And it's going to take me into the expense report. The first page that we see, we have a column over here called available expenses. Our travel card tie-in would come in over here, and the source would look like a credit card transaction instead of an airplane in this case. So I don't have anything that I'm trying to pull into this expense report. I'm actually going to add a new expense. So I click new expense up here, and I'm given all of the different expense types over here in the right-hand window. So I ended up buying a couple reams of paper, and I'm going to buy a couple reams of paper and an air can to clean my computer. So I am going to do the first expense type that I'm going to do is supplies and materials. And I am going to say that the transaction date was today. It is a non-travel expense. The vendor was Staples, and I shouldn't be doing that because we have a contract in Main Street Marketplace, but it was an emergency, so I had to run out and get it because I needed it today. I bought it in Bangor. It was in state. It was a cash transaction because I didn't have my T card with me, or I just forgot to use it. So, and it was $15.75, and I am going to say that I bought reams of paper. And I am going to hit save. So now I've created an expense report. I've got a comment that it was reams of paper. And I also have this yellow icon that says images or original receipt is required. So for this transaction, I need a receipt attached to it. I could have taken a picture of that receipt while I was in Staples, so I just double click back on this expense and I go back into the expense. So I did that, or I could stand at my scanner and scan it in. But I'm going to go down here to the bottom. I'm going to attach the receipt. Click on that button, and it's going to pop up my receipt store. So we can see that we have the ability to browse our hard drive. So if I scan something in from my copier or my scanner in my office, I could do that. If I scan something in through my mobile app, I can have those loaded into the system, and you can see those here. You also can email those in to receipts@concur.com, and if it's coming from your validated email address, then it will go into your profile. And so those are the ways that those go in there. I'm going to select this particular one, and I am going to attach it. And so now I've changed from yellow to blue. Blue in Concur means go. I can hover over it, and now I can get a view of my expense report. Of my receipt. If I chose the wrong one and I look at it and it's not good, I can detach that receipt and go find a different one. I can rotate the image. I can make it bigger or smaller to make it easier to read. So that is now in there. Now I realize that this paper should probably be charged to multiple chart field accounts. So I had the header. I put in my favorite chart field string. I have the ability within the system to allocate our chart fields, just like we do in Main Street Marketplace. So as of right now, we're allocating 100% to my own department. If I wanted to add a new allocation, I would click the button. We can allocate by percentage, or we can allocate by amount, dollar amount, and I can add in a second, third, fourth, millions of different chart fields that I can now do my allocation to. If this is an allocation, especially if I'm doing it via percentage that I use a lot, it's a split that I have between multiple projects, I can add this allocation to favorites, and then the next time I come in here, I can pull it back down out of my favorites and have it allocate over and over again. I'm actually not going to allocate this time, so I'm going to just click done. I'm going to leave it alone. But what I do realize is that on my receipt, I had both the reams of paper as well as the air can that we were talking about, and it's on the same single receipt. So of this $15.75, I've got a couple dollars worth that are my air can. So I have the ability then to itemize that particular item if I wanted to. And it's going to give me, it's going to give me multiple expense types. And so the first one we're going to do is, we'll do supplies and materials. And we're going to cut, this is our ream of paper. And we're going to do that this costs us $10. And we'll save. So now it shows me up here that I had a total amount of 15, I've itemized 10, and I have remaining 575. And I have an error up here. The itemizations amounts do not add up to the total expense. I choose the drop down, and I'm going to say that error can is computer supplies because I'm using it to clean my computer. Probably not the best example, but we'll say this is compressed air, and the amount is 575. We got these all at Staples. It's the same receipt. Now I've itemized the two items. Each of these itemizations can be allocated to different chart fields. So you can allocate at the top level, or you can allocate at the itemization level. They both have comments telling me what I did so that my approver knows what they are. And then I have the ability, so I can take a look real quick. We're going to look at the approval flow. So William Never, he is going to, his direct manager is Michael J. Noblet. Michael will get a receipt, will get an email telling him that he needs to approve this. If you notice, the cost object approver is not filled in. This is never going to fill in until after the manager approval, because the manager has the ability to change the chart field strings, so the cost object doesn't know what it's going to be until that manager saves it. This is always available. The approvers do have the ability to hit this little plus sign. We can add a step to add in, as I said before, to send it to my manager if I want to have it reviewed by somebody else. So I'm basically done with my non-travel expense report. I paid for something out of pocket. I need to be reimbursed. I'm going to click Submit Report. I will get a pop-up saying that I'm agreeing to all of the following things, mostly that I've read the APL and that I understand the proper use of university funds, etc., and that I'm being fiscally responsible. So I'm going to submit, accept and submit. I get a pop-up. So it's a personal paper purchase. The approver is Michael J. Noblet. You can see the report total is $15.75. The amount due the employee is $15.75. If we had travel card transactions, those would be in here, etc. So we now have that. We can hit close. It is going to go. So now it is in green. It is submitted. I can see where it is. If I were to click into this, we can look at the audit trail, the approval trail, etc., to see where that is. If your supervisor is using the mobile app, they'll get the email. They'll be able to log into the mobile app or click on the link directly into the email. I'll take them into the mobile app, and they are able to approve that online without having to get into the expense report within Concur. They're certainly welcome to, and then it will move on to the cost object approver, which in the case of the chart field that we chose is also Michael J. Noblet. So he'll approve both of those steps at one time. So that is a non-travel reimbursement to an employee that works for guests as well. We would be able to set up a guest profile. The delegate would go in, create the guest expenses, whether it's mileage, whether it's items, food, etc. They would be able to create an expense report for a guest and have it pay out as a check to those end users. For our employees, it can be direct deposit or a check. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the request side, so a travel side of the house. And I want to approach this from a road warrior type position. We're going to talk about a regular travel request, but what we're going to do is we're going to create a blanket request. So I'm going to do a new request. I'll click here at the top. And this piece of the puzzle looks a little bit like the expense report that we just said, but we're going to do fiscal year 15 blanket travel request. If you were doing a single trip, you could do it through here as well. The request name might be like travel to Dallas. It might be trip to Boston, conference in Boston, whatever it happens to be. So I'm going to, because this is a blanket and it's supposed to cover me between now and June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year, I'm going to start with today's date. The end date will be June 30th. The purpose is going to be field work because I work in the field all the time. My travel type is going to be in-state. And if you notice, my requisition defaulted my chart fields. Those are the defaults that we looked at. I can tell you that right now these chart fields are incorrect. So what I'm going to do is I am going to search for the proper chart field. So I'm going to choose procurement operations. And what it does is it deleted the rest of the functionality. So now I have to choose fund. It does give me the ones that have been used in the past. It also only gives me the funds that are available for this particular department ID, and I only have 00 fund E&G inside of this department. I am required to add an operating unit because I belong to UMS 08, so we'll add that. If I had a program or a project, I could start typing, and it gives me that drop down. Remember, we're going to switch to either, and then we start getting the codes that we can choose from. And that goes for project and class. As you start typing, the pop-up will come in, and then you can then add either and get things to pop up. Again, you notice you can charge across business units, you can split between universities, business units, etc. You can put a comment if you need to. If there was a situation where I was doing this request for travel, I could do a cash advance if I needed to. In this case, I do not. So I am going to hit save. Saves the header information. And I'm actually going to switch from segments to expenses. The segments tab is not quite as functional, so we typically don't use it. We're going to use the expense tab. If you notice, the expense types are much fewer here than they were in the expense side. We are adding one or two items here as it applies to train and a couple of other ground transportation items that we didn't have in there, so that we have the ability to create that expense. If you are doing a travel request, I'll show you one where we're going to Dallas, for example, for a conference. You can have hotels, you can have airfare, all of those things. For this particular travel request, I am the type of traveler. I'm a field worker, so I'm really just typically doing mileage because I'm going out and I'm coming home every night. So I'm going to click mileage. I'm going to do the transaction date starting today. It's just in there. This is just a budgetary tool. So I am going to go on past history. Then I think for the next month and a half, I need $2,000 in mileage. It is a guess. If you run out of mileage, if you run out of money within this request, you can always create a new one. But it does require more approval, and it doesn't allow for change orders like a purchase order within Marketplace does. So I'm going to estimate I need $2,000. That's based on my history. It is a bit of a guess, but I think it's pretty close. So I'm going to hit save. And now I have an expense request out there for the fiscal year. It's for my in-state travel, and I've got $2,000. At this point, we can just submit this, or we can look at the approval flow. Obviously, we can see that it is going to go to Michael Noblet. We can see that we have no cost object approver yet because we don't know what that cost object approver is, because Mike could be changing it, and there could be other steps that we can add. Also, within the expenses, we do obviously have the ability to allocate here as well, to put this into a split distribution where the header only allows for a single chart field. So I'm going to submit, and that request is now submitted. It is in a pending and approved state, so we can see that Michael Noblet has it out there. If he has that mobile app and he's paying attention to his email, then he is going to approve that in a very short period of time. Typically, when we were doing the roadshow for this particular presentation, I was able to show that we could approve it in less than a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to skip down. We've got one that's approved here. It's in an approved state. So if Michael J had gone through it, done the cost object approver, it would come back in an approved state. And if you notice, we've got an expense link at the end of the line. So I'm a road warrior. Now I've got my permission to travel. You no longer need to keep an email, some sort of written format that you've got permission to travel in state, that you're going out on a regular basis. You do not have to do a blanket. You can do a travel request for each trip. I would suggest that you do that for out-of-state travel. Certainly for the admissions folks as they go in and out of the state, we are working with some solutions there. So if you have questions, please reach out to the contact folks at the end of this presentation and we can help you. But for this instance, I'm just going to expense this. This is my in-state travel for the rest of fiscal year 15. I click on the expense line. If you notice, the header information came in from my request. My request information is down here in the expense footer. And now it allows me to, I don't have to enter anything here. I can just click next. In this case, I'm going to tell it that I had no meals because I'm just driving around. It's just mileage. So I'm going to tell it no. Again, we've seen this before. I am going to now do my mileage. So I'm going to come over here to University Mileage under Ground and Water Transport. I'm going to click that mileage link. And we can say that I traveled today. So I was traveling today for my field work. And I went from Bangor, Maine to Portland, Maine. Today, it was in state. If I knew the distance, I could plug it in. But one of the really nice features, if we scroll down, is we have a mileage calculator down at the bottom, and it's tied into Google Maps. So I click on Mileage Calculator, and it pops up a window where it says that I went from Bangor to Portland, shows my waypoints. If you notice, we've got the university locations. So we've got the Keough building, which is my office location, and that's tied into the system. So I've got that there. If you notice, I can make this a round trip. So I click the link, and now it goes Bangor to Portland to Bangor, and it increased my mileage to 256. So we went from A to B and then back to A. So I can add this to my mileage expense. So I do that. And it auto-calculated my 257 miles is $113.08 based on the Google Map calculations. Here's where we have our personal vehicle ID where we set up. So I've got my university rate, but let's say that I took somebody with me and we're going to call this carpooling, and I'm going to say that the number of passengers is 2. So I filled that in, and now you can see that I am obviously in the car. I'm going to hit save, just to show you what's going to end up happening. So I told the system that it's carpooling. So I get a red exclamation saying that attendees are required for carpool mileage rate. The system and the IRS require that if we're going to get the higher carpooling rate, we have to identify the travelers that are with us on that trip. So if I scroll down, I've got William Never in here. That's me. I can add a new attendee. So this attendee functionality is built for our group meals. We talked about that during the meal conversation, where if you're hosting multiple people, you would name who those are up to 10 people, and then after 10, it's just a 10 plus. But we need that for group meals. We need that for carpooling. So we're going to do a new attendee, even though it sounds odd to have an attendee in the car. I'm going to do business guest, and you can have group. So you got business guest, that's an individual or group event, 10 plus attendees. So we'll do business guest, and we're going to have Stephanie LeBlanc in the car with me. I can just have her last name, and I can add her first name as well, although as we've mentioned before, only things in red are required, and the company, she is from UMS. So we want to identify anybody, and if they're not from a company, you can just put the university they're coming to visit from or whatever it happens to be. So I'm going to hit save. And the system is smart enough to know that I've used Stephanie before, so I am going to use the one I already did instead of creating a new attendee. So it does store all of our attendees for us, It was smarter than I was, and it basically puts that person in as an attendee. While it does split it, Stephanie is not going to get reimbursed. Only William never gets reimbursed. And as I save this, now we can see that the red exclamation point is gone. So I was driving around. I went from Bangor to Portland. There are tolls associated with that, so I want to add in some tolls, even though they weren't on my requisition and really aren't really all that necessary for there. If you notice, the vendor name and city of purchase are not required. It's still in state. It is cash. I'm going to say that it was $2.50 worth of tolls, and I am going to save that. And if you notice, it does not require a receipt. Tolls and individual meals are the only two items in the system that do not require receipts. So we have decided to not require toll receipts. If a traveler is using their personal Easy Pass, they are not required to add in the statement unless their department requires it. So if somebody did require you to add in the statement, you could attach a receipt, which you could scan in the statement if you wish. It is not required. We will not require it. A department may make it more stringent. So now we can see that I have my mileage and my tolls, and I'm just going to save this, and then we will be able to submit this expense. And as we submit it, we get our final review. Again, this is our acceptance of what's going on, that we've read all of these items. We accept and submit. It now opens up that pop-up. It tells me how much I put in, how much was rejected, what is owed to the employee to be paid by the company. I'm going to hit close. And so we've got an expense report that's out here. And what I want to do real quick, we're going to go back into this expense report, and I want to show you one more thing that makes everybody's life easier. So one of the things that people are probably asking is I've not seen anywhere that we enter an account code for our expenses. So one of the things that we've built into the system is that the expense type, the university mileage or tolls in this instance, have the account code portion of the chart field string built into it. So how do you know what those are? So if we go to print an email, we can do UMS detailed report. It's going to pop up a new window for me, and it's going to load a report. And what I want to do is I want to show expenses and show itemization. So if I have broken anything down, I'll see them both. So what I can do is I can scroll down now, and as you can see, we've got the accounting code associated with the expense type of tolls or the university mileage. It tells me the breakdown from a cost allocation perspective and what I've done, and then all of the important things. This report is very powerful. You can turn it into a PDF, you can email it, you can print it, etc. But it does give you some of that background information. Where did things get charged? Makes understanding the allocations and itemizations a little bit easier. So that is a simple expense report associated with a blanket travel expense. If it were a specific trip, you would pull that travel request in. We'll take a look at that here just before we start our full-blown travel expense. So I have an expense report that's been approved. It's my Dallas test trip. I'm going to open it up just so that we can see what's in here. So it's conference and training. It's out of state. I've charged it to my department. I've got some expenses associated with it. I've got airfare, hotel, car rental, and travel meal expense that are just estimates. They are things that we put in the system based on research that we did so that we have a budget that can be encumbered into our chart field strings. Each one of these has a unique chart field string that they're being allocated to based on the header, and we could have broken them down, etc. The request and the expense do not have to be the same in terms of where the cost allocation is, but it does make it a tiny bit easier if they are. And it will liquidate the encumbrance no matter what you use on the expense versus the requisition. So I have this expense. It has been approved for me. we notice that the request ID is 33DW. We're going to need that so that we can do our booking. So we're going to go back out. We're going to go to the home page. And we're going to go into travel. I'm going to show you a couple of things before we move into actually booking our travel, but just so that you're aware. If this individual is a delegate for somebody, I can go into my profile. I am a delegate for or a travel assistant, and I can click the down arrow, and we can see that I've been given delegate authority for Mr. Russell Edgar. So I can choose his name. I can hit apply. And it is now switching over so that I am within Mr. Russell Edgar's profile. So his travel card, his TSA information, all is stored within this. You also notice that his passport is expiring on July 13th, 2015, so that he's aware. He can go in and update. But as a travel arranger, I could go in now as Russell Edgar. I could book it. It will pay under Russell Edgar's travel card, and then he can have the expense report go against his name. If you had multiple people that you needed to arrange for and you're a delegate for them, you can just switch the name to the next one, hit apply, and go on. So I'm going to end the admin session. And if William never happened to be a delegate, there would be a delegate tab here that they could look at to see what their travelers are doing. So they could see that their travelers that they're assigned to have a trip coming up next week, etc. Mr. William Never is not a delegate for anyone, so that's not there. He does have the ability to book for a guest if it's not a university employee, as we showed with Mr. Edgar Russell. We can book for an outside guest if we would like. And we click on book for a guest, and we notice that this has changed to booking for a guest. And the only thing that is going to be different for this is, as the arranger, I'm going to be using my travel card to pay for these arrangements. And when we get to a certain point, and I'll show it to you when we do book stuff, that it's because this doesn't have a profile, we're going to need to pull in certain pieces of information from the traveler that we'll hand enter into the system to help with the TSA information. So that'll be the one difference between booking for a guest or booking for myself. So I'm going to be William Never. I'm going to go back to booking for myself. I'm going to a conference in Dallas that I'm going to fly to. We will get to the conference registration and the hotel piece in a minute after we go through this, and we'll talk about why we might want to go ahead and book at least temporarily through the system for the hotel for my conference, even if I'm getting a special rate. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So I am actually going to fly out of Portland. I'm going to fly out of Portland International, and I am going to fly into Dallas. And one of the really nice things about the system is that Dallas, Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, L.A. have multiple airfields that you could fly into. So if you notice, as I type this in, we have Dallas-Fort Worth area airports or DFW or Love Field, so that I don't have to do multiple searches. And the reason that I picked Portland is because I'm going to add in Southwest to this. I want to be able to search both airports and pick up any flights that I would want. So I'm going to do Dallas area airports. I am going to depart next month. Actually, we're going to depart in July just so that we don't run into any issues. We're going to, with other trips that we've done in the test environment. So I'm going to fly out on July 13th. I can either depart or arrive by 9 a.m. plus or minus 4 hours. Typically, we would look at departing by a specific time, but if you needed to be somewhere by a certain time, then you could. Flying out of Maine makes arriving places at a specific time difficult. With this plus or minus 4 hours, it is searching an 8-hour window around 9 a.m. You do have the ability, if you really want to punish yourself, to choose any number of plus or minus hours. But when we do this, we could come back with 14 pages worth of answers. And if you did 23 hours, for example, it would be way too much for you to even evaluate. So we typically recommend that people stay with plus or minus 4 hours. I'm going to return on the 16th, and I'm going to depart there by 3 p.m. Now, obviously, I could do an arrive if I wanted to be home for my daughter's soccer game or something, I could choose an arrive time of 5:30, 6 o'clock to make sure I get home on time. I do happen to know that flying into Portland and Bangor is difficult to get back here at any given specific time again. While on my request, I did put in a request for car. I'm not going to need it because I'm going to be at a location where I'm not going to need a car, and there's actually a shuttle from the airport to the hotel. So I'm just going to do find a hotel. And again, even though I've got conference rates and I can book through my conference site, I am going to, for the time being, go ahead and search for a hotel. I can search for a hotel within 5 miles. You can change this, any distance of an airport, of an address, of a company location. If we are in the state of Maine and we're near one of the universities, we can choose one of the universities. All of those are preloaded, but because we're in Dallas, there are no company locations in the Dallas area. And we can have a reference point or a zip code. So my conference is in a suburb of Dallas, and it's called Plano, Texas. And so I am going to scroll down. I'm going to click search. It is going to give me a pop-up just confirming that it's Plano, Texas, and then I am going to move on. Oh, this is a trip that's conflicting with another trip, so we're not going to do this. We're going to change the dates real quick. This is why I chose a random set of dates. We're going to go out into the future a little bit further. So we'll go to the 30th, and we'll try this again. So the system does know that you're traveling, and it may conflict with other trips. So we're going Monday to Thursday, and now it is pulling back my flights. And as this bar populates, we're going to get a matrix at the top of the screen, just like the ones that you've seen in the past around Expedia, etc. So I've got my expense report. I've got my matrix here at the top, and I've got a bunch of choices. I can choose to filter for just airlines. If I'm a U.S. Airways traveler on a regular occasion, that might be what I want to limit it to. I can click U.S. Airways, and it'll filter so that I get only U.S. Airways. If I want to go back, I can just click all, and it'll give it. I can just do one stops, so I can click all of those, and it'll give me all the one stops. I've got Southwest. You can choose any number of airlines. The multiple carriers. Shorts Travel recommends that we not use multiple carriers, but certainly if that's the only way to get there and it's a cheaper rate, that's okay. It just kind of goes against industry standards. And if you have problems when you're on multiple airlines, it's a little bit more difficult to clean those up, cancellations, etc. If you notice down here at the bottom, the select button is in green. We've baked into the system the policies and procedures. So when you see green, you know that it's in policy. If it's yellow, it's slightly out of policy, and you know that you need to give an explanation as to why. If it's red, then it's out of policy. It's totally out of policy. It's going to require manager approval. It is something that is available for you to book, but just so that you're aware. On the left-hand side, we have lots of filters that are available. I think the big one would be for me is probably this outbound one. If I really don't want to leave at 5:45 in the morning, and if I don't want to leave till 8 o'clock because it takes a long time to get down to Portland, and I don't want to have to get up at the crack of dawn, I can change it to 8 o'clock, and now it's filtered out my answers to just be 8 o'clock on. The other important thing is that anything in red in Concur is important, and you should read it. If we hover over this, it says that the outbound flight only has a 35-minute layover in Philly, and anybody flying into Philly knows that you're going to fly in on a small plane into Terminal F and then have to switch to Terminal B or something, and that's not even remotely enough time. So it's probably something we're not going to want to choose. And you have that going, and so right now it's only showing us layover problems. If you flew and it was a long layover, so we had a short layover, you could have a long layover, or if it's overnight, like it goes into a separate day, all of those come up as red. So there are 18 pages worth of responses on this, and I wanna make sure that I can kind of review it without having to go through all 18. So I want to compare a couple flights. So I'm going to take this U.S. Airways flight. I should be fine. I'm getting in with enough time, and I should have enough time to get turned around and get gone. So I am going to compare this flight. So I click compare, and it removes it. It moves it up to the top. Now I want to do only Southwest flights now, so that I have something to compare. So this is an interesting deal where I've got the fares, and it's in yellow. And one of the reasons this is different, part of the reason it's yellow is because it's out of policy, and it's quite a bit more money. The other side is we click fares. I said before that we have the ability to get the cheapest fare. Well, in this particular flight, it isn't available at the time. I'm guessing that it's sold out, but we have the ability to get the getaway anytime fare, which is much cheaper. You can choose that and put that into our model. I'm not going to choose the Southwest Airlines one, so I'm going to click back to all, and I'm going to choose a Delta flight. Actually, let's choose a United flight because we get those special discounts. We can see that this one's in policy and this one is out of policy, and I've got only a 36-minute layover at Dulles. I think I can still make that, but let's compare these flights. So now I've moved that up there. I've got my U.S. Airways flight. I've got my United flight. I can now click Show Details and take a look and see what's going on, what's my layover, what kind of plane am I on, etc. And I can look at the details for this flight. Same type of thing. I'm flying on a regional jet the entire time. I don't get to get on a big one. I've got a long layover. I got a short layover, and it's a little more expensive. I'm probably not going to choose this flight, so I'm going to click the cheaper U.S. Airways one. I'm going to select it, and now it's going out to the Apollo reservation system and taking a look at it. So now I get to review my flight details, my in, my out. When I talked about booking for a guest traveler, we get to this point where it says enter traveler information. If this were a guest traveler, there would be nothing here. There would be a bunch of fields to fill in, etc. Because this is an employee, I've got their profile. So all of that stuff is assigned here. I don't need to mess around with it. If I had a U.S. Airways frequent flyer program, I could choose it here. I could add it. I do have the ability to select my seats. So I get the map for all of my flights. I like to be in the aisle, so I'm gonna choose this seat, and then I'll choose for the next flight. Oops, I need to save that. All right, so now I'm gonna go to my next flight, and I'm going up. There's no flight seat map available for this flight at the moment. Typically, what that means is they're pretty close to selling out. It's not a big deal. You will, based on your preferences in your profile, be able to choose. So we're going to close this. So I've selected a seat here. I'm going to leave the return flights. I'm going to leave those on there as flights that I'm going to let the system choose. We can see that it's 613.20. I'm going to charge my T card. This is a non-refundable ticket. I'm going to reserve the flight and continue. So as I reserve the flight, all I'm reserving is a seat. I am not reserving a price. Price is always variable and is not available until you actually pay for the ticket. And that's important to remember. And as it's reserving the flights, it's just sitting out there and going out to the Apollo system and taking care of that. Again, that would then charge my travel card. As soon as I decide to purchase it, it would come into my expense report as something I am able to use. So now I am at my hotel, and I mentioned that we're going to be at a hotel that we're going to be looking at the hotel, a specific hotel that the conference is at. So I'm going to scroll down. We could plug in their name as part of the filter. I could change the search, add the filter. We've got the Google Maps so we can see where everything is here in Plano. I'm going to scroll down, and here we go. So the conference is at the Homewood Suites by Hilton on the George Bush Turnpike in Portland. You can see that it says View Rates. One of the reasons that I'm choosing this, besides the fact that we're pretending which hotel I'm going, pretending that this is the hotel for my conference, is the fact that Shorts Travel has the ability to tap into consortia rates. And this is why we suggest that you, even if you're booking for your conference, that you want to take a look. If you notice at the beginning of this, it says HRG Global Hotel Program. So Shorts belongs to HRG. They're getting a special rate. They're passing that on to us. If we were to scroll down in this, we eventually get to, you know, the normal rates of 180, 184. Actually, those ones are HRG as well. But basically, their 202 is the rates off the street. So we would see a significant savings with that 164 based on the fact that it's a HRG global rate. The conference rate may be less than that, or it may be more. Certainly doesn't hurt to book this because it's easily cancelable. You're not paying for it now, but you can compare that to your rate later. We have found that there are people that are getting cheaper rates through Concur rather than booking through the conference. You still can do your conference registration with your travel card, but you don't necessarily have to book the hotel even if you're staying in the same one. Also, if we had University of Maine system rates, those would be UMS rate would be flagged here at the beginning so that you know you were getting the special UMS rate. There are other consortia rates that are available, and that's why we suggest go ahead and doing that. We're staying at the Homewood Suites because of our conference. I'm going to select it, and it's going to review my room. Again, my hotel guest information. I don't need to enter any of that stuff in because it's part of my profile. If it was a guest, I'd be able to edit all of that stuff. If you notice, there's no money due now because I'm not due to pay this until I check out. I am using my travel card just to hold it. That's just the security. The one piece on hotels that you absolutely need is this rates, rules, restrictions, and cancellation policy. It is required that you agree to this before you can reserve the hotel. I absolutely recommend that you check on this. I know that other people, with software packages, etc., we typically just click OK. This is very important because we don't want to get into a situation where we may not be able to cancel the room and have to pay. So we've got a 24-hour cancellation required. My room rate for total is $555.96 without taxes. It's guaranteed with a credit card. So we've got all of that. We're good to go. I'm going to select I agree. And I'm going to reserve the hotel and continue. I decided not to get a car because I can take a shuttle from the airport to the hotel. And I also have friends in the area, and they're going to help me drive around and do whatever I need to do when I'm not in the conference. So it's now sending information to the hotel, retrieving my itinerary for my final review, and that will come up here momentarily. The system obviously is running on the same platform as Expedia and Orbitz, so you should typically see the same types of prices. The price is typically a little bit different based on those fees that are associated that we talked about at the beginning. Again, booking online for this, you will see a $5 fee on your credit card. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. So it's not built into anything. It'll be a $5 fee for ticketing. We can look at this is our trip from Portland to Dallas. We're flying on the 27th to the 30th of July. And so here's my flight. I am on a mixed flight, so I'm going out on U.S. Airways, changing to American Airlines, then my hotel where I'm at for the conference, then my flight home from American to U.S. Airways. We noticed that our air price is $613, our hotel price is $555.96 after all of the taxes, and my total estimated cost is $1,169.16. It's estimated because obviously I'm not paying for the hotel until I get back. You can see that I'm getting an email sent to my Fairpoint account, my work account, and my travel admin are also getting it. I'm going to click next. I've reviewed all of this. And if I were to click next, I would get the opportunity now to purchase it. And that's where I would lock in the price of my airline ticket. We can put in a trip description. It is optional. Just say conference in Dallas. If for some reason, as we start using the system more, and if you ever had a cancellation of a trip, Shorts and Concur will be tracking the cancellation credits for the airline tickets. So if you had an unused ticket that's out there, it would give you a pop-up window here. You'd have the ticket number. You could type that ticket number in here, and Shorts will then use the credit associated with that ticket to pay for this or partially pay for this trip. Do not type anything in here unless you want Shorts to do something. If there's any characters typed into this field, it will stop at a Shorts agent, and they will then try to find a ticket. So we don't want to type anything in there unless we have those outstanding tickets. So I received pre-approval as is required for my trip, and I have the budget funds, so I'm just going to click yes. And then down here we've got our four-digit trip request, and if we remember right, that was 33DW. Now if I click next again, I can actually pay for it, but what I want to do is I want to put this trip on hold, because there's a couple of very important things that happen when we put a trip on hold. And one of those things is that the system tells us a bold-faced lie when it says that we are finished. You've successfully booked your trip. You have not successfully booked your trip, because the trip will be canceled unless it's completed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our trip library, and we're going to take a look. So what we've got two tickets in here. We've got a trip from Portland to Dallas, and we've got a trip from Phoenix to Los Angeles. And if we notice this trip is on hold by a user, trip will automatically be canceled in 24 hours. And that is a hard and fast rule. It will automatically cancel that trip on the fly. You have the ability to cancel any portion of the trip. So if you click this cancel link, if you did find out that your hotel was cheaper to book through the conference, you could cancel it. But you could use this tool to build your travel request. So you could go back, do your trip, get it to a point where you put it on hold. Now that you know what the expenses are, you can build a request, get that trip ID, come back to this, and then add that request ID if you wanted to, with the caveat and understanding that your manager needs to approve in 24 hours to get that. Otherwise, this trip will be canceled, and you will lose those seats. Again, it is very important to understand that the seat cost, the ticket cost for the airline is not locked in until you pay for it. So even though this is on hold and you had a price of $613 or whatever it happened to be, it won't hold that, and it could go up. That is all for booking that trip. I do want to show one other item, and it applies to folks traveling on grants, grant travel. So we're going to search for New York travel. We're going to fly out of LaGuardia. And click find an airport. So the search function just didn't want to work for me for a second, so we'll find an airport. We'll just show a different way to do this. 2 locations. And it's going to show me all the airports, and I'm going to choose LaGuardia. And I am going to be going to London. We're going to go to Heathrow specifically. We're going to way out in the future just so that we can show this. 24th. And I'm just going to show you an airline. when we're traveling on grant funds, there is a concept from different granting agencies, specifically the federal government, where that you have to fly under the Fly America Act. So it is important that you understand what that is. And as the system is searching, I told you that the system told you that you were finished with this trip. We're going to go back in just a minute and I'll show you what really shows that you're finished. We can see the status on this is ticketed. That's the first step in knowing that it's finished. And the second step will be an itinerary that you receive from Shorts Travel. We'll come to that as soon as the system gets done searching for my flight. And as we talk about the Fly America Act, basically what that means is that the grant requires that the traveler fly on a U.S. flag carrier. So basically that they have a base of operations in the United States. They're owned by a United States company. As the search window comes up, we would typically see a U.S. flag right below the flight information, and that denotes that it is it adheres to the Fly America Act. And so as long as you get to Europe, for example, if you were flying on a U.S. flag carrier, you fulfill that Fly America Act. Once you get there, then you can obviously change to a different carrier. And this is the flag that I'm talking about. This option is a Fly America Act compliant. We also notice this is the red icon where this is a long layover where we've got a 9-hour and 35-minute layover at Logan Airport, and it's going overnight. So you've got these icons, you've got the red, but the piece that we want to show you is this Fly America Act. Now I talked about when do we know that we're done with our flight. Even though this one said it's done, it shows up as ticketed. And then the other piece of that is that we end up with a itinerary that comes in from Shorts Travel. And I'm going to basically those will come in from Shorts Travel as an email, and they should typically show up within 1 to 3 hours. If it's over 4 hours and you have not seen an itinerary, it is very important that you contact Shorts Travel so that you can find out why you haven't seen that particular itinerary, because they're very good at getting those to us. And if you haven't seen it, then there's something wrong. So this is the itinerary or invoice from Shorts. We can scroll down. It's got my flight. This is a different flight than the one we booked. This is our Phoenix to Los Angeles flight. We can see that we have the ability to check in. It is a live link. So my little finger there changes into a web link, and we can click on it and go to southwest.com to check us in so that we can hopefully get a good number. So they treat us like cattle on Southwest. We can also see that we've got the people that this was emailed to. If, for example, I had a ticket credit that I was using, that information would be in here as well. So this is a very important piece. If you don't get this, then your flight hasn't been booked. If you don't see it within 4 hours, please reach out to Shorts. That is everything. And obviously, as the expenses for any of these trips come in, then you would be able to build that expense report off of those. If you have any questions or comments about the system, this system is very, very powerful in terms of help. We have the help menu up at the top for training, travel, expense, etc. I'm going to click on training. It's going to open up a new window. It is important to note that you have your level 1 contacts for your first group of people to reach out to. They are the procurement coordinators within the system. They are assigned to specific campuses. Their email, their phone number, etc. are here. Your level 2 contacts are the administrators. So folks that are running the system. Nina Connors is our travel administrator. So if you need your profile information, your default chart fields, etc. changed, she'd be the person to reach out to. Stephanie LeBlanc is our travel card administrator. You can reach out to her if there's problems with the cards. Those cards are loaded with chips and pins, so they will work overseas and have the security needed to work in Europe, etc. And then David Scheid is our training and communication. But if you notice, there are very helpful links here. So the Concur Quick Start Guide, Quick Start, our UMS travel site. There are videos on using both the mobile app and other items. You can click on the left-hand side, go to Expense, and there are all kinds of individual little pieces that you can look at acting as a delegate, for example. It gives you a step-by-step walkthrough. This is incredibly powerful. Certainly reach out to any of the contacts on here, but this is available to you guys 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that you know who to reach out to. The slide deck that was associated with this presentation is available online through our homepage. The UMS travel page does have FAQs and all of the contact information as well, another very powerful tool. I hope you enjoyed this. Please feel free to reach out to the procurement coordinators. There are other training sessions that are coming, certainly walk-in hours and other ways of one-on-ones, phone conversations, business model discussions, etc. Those are all available to you, as well as all the self-help, self-paced stuff that you see here and within our website. Thank you very much for attending, and I look forward to your use of the system using Concur and being reimbursed for travel. Thank you.